What's up, my little potato families? Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic. We're talking about the effects of war and how they often contribute to significant political and ideological shifts. A perfect example of this is the Irish War of Independence. Whoa, how'd you get here?
I have a better word for this, the Colombian conflict.
What is that about?
The Colombian conflict is a long-running and complex armed struggle between the Colombian government and leftist guerrillas, such as the Armed Forces of Colombia and the National Liberation Army, and right-armed paramilitaries like the United Colombia Self-Defense Group. What is yours about?
The Irish War of Independence was a guerrilla conflict fought between the Irish Republic Army, the IRA, the Army of Self-Declared Irish Republic, and the British Security Forces in Ireland. This all happened after the 1918 election, where nationalist Sinn Féin Party won a majority of Irish seats and established an independent parliament in Dublin, declaring independence from the UK. The conflict was guerrilla warfare by the IRA, targeting police and military barracks and retaliating against the British forces, specifically the British forces of the Black and Tans and the Auxiliaries. When did your war start?
Well, my war started, it was a direct result of deep-rooted social and political conflict. In spite of natural wealth, a large number of Colombians lived in poverty. The poverty is partially concentrated in rural areas, and since Colombia is one of the most unequal countries in the world, there have been opportunities throughout Colombia to fix these social injustices, but the government decided not to. So due to this, many opposition parties decided to take action and to emerge in response to the situation, and the armed conflict was a direct result of the unanswered social and political conflict. Why did yours start?
Mine started not one specific event, but it was accumulation over many centuries of the Irish resisting British rule, and it was fueled by the British government's failure to grant home rule, which was limited self-government, before World War I, which caused the Irish nationalists to become more upset with the issues of them being ruled by another government, and the brutal suppression of the 1916 Easter Rising and the execution of some leaders. These events made the Irish public opinion very negative towards the British government, which shifted the political support from the moderate Irish Parliamentary Party to the Republic of Sciences, which was much more radical. The conflict formally began when the Irish Parliament declared independence, and the two Royal Irish Constabulary, the IRC, officers were killed in an ambush by the IRA volunteers. What were the effects of your war?
Well, the Colombian conflict resulted in many mass casualties and displacement. Over 220,000 killed and millions internally displaced, creating one of the world's largest displaced population. It also resulted in a health crisis with widespread trauma, increased sexual violence, and disruption of healthcare access. There were also many child victims, as many were recruited and disappeared or separated from their families, and there was a loss of trust and community participation, as communities were often controlled by armed groups and forced into certain areas where they weren't allowed to leave due to the strong rule of the armed groups. It also resulted in a lot of poverty. Since there was already poverty to begin with, it just deepened and it even made it even worse than before. This led to a lot of immense social and economic burdens from violence, corruption, and a management crisis. This also resulted in a weakened government. What were the impacts of your war?
Some of the impacts of my war was after the war. There was the establishment of the Irish Free State, which was the result of the Anglo-Irish Treaty, which ended the conflict between the Irish and the British Empire, which led the Irish to have a limited amount of freedom over the British government, but the UK created Northern Ireland, where they stayed in control of. This also eventually led to the Irish Civil War, which was where Ireland fully was granted all of its freedom. But that's a whole different topic. And another thing was most of British rule was ended in Ireland. There was some negative impacts though, such as casualties, where about 2,000 people were killed during the war, including members of the IRA and British forces and civilians, since sometimes the British would target specifically civilians. There was some trauma and division because the violence, particularly the activities of the Black and Tans, and the Civil War led to political divisions within the Irish society. Some economic impacts that also happened were a significant amount of property damage because the British forces often would bomb parts of Ireland during their retaliations against the British forces. And there was much economic disruption, which conflicted with trade and agriculture, which led to an economic downturn for Ireland during that time period. How does your war connect to the topic of the effects of war leading to significant ideological shifts?
Great question. So the Colombian conflict connects to this topic as it resulted in deep political polarization, as it was mainly an issue to begin with, it begun in the government to begin with. So this led to the rise of new political actors and brought forward marginalized issues such as land reforms and victims' rights to the center of national politics. And it also led to a large shift in, ideological and societal beliefs, as the society of Colombia no longer felt trusted, or they didn't feel like a trust in community anymore. The social reform very much broke up and they were all very distrusting of each other, so it led to a large gap in political and ideological beliefs. What about you?
The overall Irish political and ideological beliefs significantly shifted due to the Irish War of Independence, specifically the nationalism within the civilians. Due to the British attacking them when they retaliated and executing many of their leaders, they became very upset with the British, and this led to them trying to cut off a lot of the British cultural elements they had, and they significantly went back into their roots of their original Irish culture, such as they even went back into such things like Gaelic language, traditional foods, traditional activities, and all of this was due to their retaliation and wanting to distance themselves from the British rule and wanting to no longer have anything to do with the UK. I feel like my war kind of fits the topic better.
No, I think mine does.
No, I really think mine does.
No, mine's better.
No, mine's better. No, it is.
Oh, you were about to say no, it's not.
No, it is. No, you want to fight? You want to go? Sorry for that, guys. Anyway, that was our discussion of the topic of the effects of war and how they often contribute to significant political and ideological shifts, specifically with the Irish War of Independence
and the Colombian conflict.
Make sure to subscribe!